My fans, I have arrived.
Me too.
Melt in your mouth.
They look so cheery.
You're an M&M. There's no point in wondering where your pockets are.
Tasty, smooth, creamy milk. Chocolate center.
You're an M&M. It's all right. There's no sense in wondering where your pockets are.
Chocolate melts in your mouth.
Don't worry, they say hi.
Solid milk chocolate M&M's.
I love being on TV when you're an M&M. Don't worry, it's all right.
Solid milk chocolate M&M's.
Don't worry,
Get in the ball.
Milk chocolate melts in your mouth.
do you think
Bite-sized candies. Milk chocolate.
do you think
Bite-sized candies. Creamy milk chocolate.
do you think
Bite-sized candies.
I hope no one
Almond chocolate.
do you think
Bite-sized candies. Chocolate center. Milk chocolate.
you're an M&M? No one wrong. There's no point in wondering where your pockets are.
Only M&M's candies.
You're an M&M. It's all right. There's no sense in wondering where your ear holes are.
Milk chocolate melts in your mouth.
So it's that kind of party. Dark chocolate, darker than they see. So it's that kind of party. When you're an M&M. 13 more hours. Oh no.
Solid milk chocolate.
Aye aye. 13 more hours. Oh no.
Milk chocolate melts in your mouth.
Do you think
Bite-sized candies. Milk chocolate.
rock the boat?
Bite-sized candies. Creamy milk chocolate. Milk chocolate.
Do you think
Bite-sized candies.
M&M?
Almond chocolate.
Do you think
Bite-sized candies. Chocolate center.
when you're an M&M?
Milk chocolate melts in your mouth.
Must buy other?
Milk chocolate melts in your mouth.
Creamy milk chocolate. Milk chocolate.
Milk chocolate melts in your mouth.
Must buy other?
Milk chocolate melts in your mouth.
They say hi when you're an M&M.
All the M&M's you could want. With peanuts or plain.
Might wonder. Might wonder. You're an M&M. 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 You're an M&M.
Milk chocolate. Bite-sized cat. Chocolate center. Milk chocolate. Bite-sized cat. Chocolate center. The M&M's can only all new M's. The M&M's can bite-sized candies. M's. The M&M's can only all new M's. The M&M's can.
I'd say that's a wrap.
Transmitting live from the Asylum Studios, deep in the bowels of Southwest Texas. It's the Joe Rooz Show. The show where we talk about anything and everything. Where nothing is sacred, nothing is watered down, and nothing is PC.
All righty. Hey, folks, this is Joe Rooz, and it is great to be with you once again as we open up this show and transmit to you live from the Asylum Studios from the Pimple on the backside of Texas, the beautiful city of Eagle Pass. And we are going to do the very best that we can to bring you the best quality talk radio we can muster without all the bluster. Hey, folks, welcome to the Joe Rooz Show. Well, it is Monday, October the 20th, 2025 at 19:01 hours. We actually started on time. Can you believe that? That's just pretty wild, right? I think so. Hey, guys, I hope you had a great weekend. If you weren't able to catch the shows over the weekend, that's all right. They're still up there for you to check out. Also, the audio stream is available to you on Rumble. On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Good Pods, you name it, we're on it. Check it out. You want to check out the video, that you'll find on Rumble, that you'll find on YouTube, that you'll also find on Twitch, X, Facebook, all of those great places. So make sure you head over there and check those things out. And if you can, if you're watching or you're listening, if you can leave a comment, leave a rating, a review, whatever it is. Some platforms let you leave like a star review, something like that. Do it. Let me know what you think. Really curious to get some feedback from the folks. Are you happy with what content we're putting out? I would love to know. So head over to those sites. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment right down here below, or you can email me at info@joerooz.com, info@joerooz.com. All right, and tonight, our show tonight is being brought to you by podhome.fm. That's podhome.fm. Podhome is my host platform for the audio feed. And podhome.fm is probably the most modern and easy-to-use podcast hosting platform on the market today. You can use it to publish your episodes, enhance your audio, automatically generate transcripts, chapters, titles, show notes, and more. And you know what? You can even podcast live. This show right now is being streamed live across all the audio platforms that accept that feed. Those are mostly the modern 2.0 app that are out there, like Podcast Guru, Fountain.fm, TrueFans.fm, Podverse. All those modern podcast apps carry the live stream, so check it out. The audio is live, and then it'll be available later on to download. If you don't have a website for your show, Podhome will provide that too at no extra charge. It's everything that you need in one affordable subscription of $15.99 a month. That's $15.99 a month. Just head over to podhome.fm to try it out for free for 30 days. That's podhome.fm, podhome.fm. And we are very, very pleased to announce that we have a new sponsor that is starting with us beginning today. And our new sponsor is TNE Energy. TNE Energy. Electricity is essential, and TNE Energy makes it affordable and personal. More than 1 million customers across the U.S. trust TNE Energy to power their homes, earn free energy, and for referring their family and friends as well. You can see current offers available to you today by visiting their website, tneenergy.myambit.com/rates and plans. It's right up there on your screen. Just head over to tneenergy.myambit.com and explore all the options that are available for you today. And we are very happy to have them on board with us, so we appreciate them. And we'll be hearing more about them in the days and weeks ahead. There's a lot of things coming down through the folks over at TNE Energy, so we are really extremely excited to be a part of that. And then also, want to mention American Hemp Hub. Don't forget to check out AmericanHempHub.com for some fantastic hemp-based product that you could try out. It's AmericanHempHub.com, AmericanHempHub.com. And if you use promo code Rooz at checkout, ROOZ, at checkout, you get free shipping on all orders over $40. So head over to AmericanHempHub.com and check them out. AmericanHempHub.com. All right. Also, don't forget, head over to our website, joerooz.com. Get over to joerooz.com. Head over to our contact section. Open up that little web form. Send us over a message. Let us know what you're thinking. Any questions, comments, cares, concerns that you might have, any issues, complaints. If you have a guest suggestion or a topic that you'd like to talk about, let us know. Drop us a comment. Let us know. If you don't want to use the web form, totally fine. I gave you the email address before. I'll give it to you again, info@joerooz.com. That's info@joerooz.com. And you could also use the comment section there down below if you want to drop a little note to us. We'll always make sure we get to those as well. So plenty of ways to reach us. Just pick your weapon. All right. Also, if you would, while you're on the website, take a look at the support button on the homepage. And remember, this is a value for value show. And all that simply means is that if you are receiving anything of value from the content that we are putting out, we are asking that you return that value to us in the form of a donation. It could be your time, your talent, or your treasure. And we'll always lay out all of those options to you right before we actually end the show. So make sure you stick around for the end of the show. We'll get to all of that information for you as well. And I think I'll mention this really quick. Don't forget, we also have a GoFundMe going, so the QR code should be up there on your screen. If you want to help us out, we have some unexpected expenses that have come up that we need to cover. And if you guys have the means to do it and you're able to do it, we appreciate your help and support in getting those things covered. You can scan the QR code, take you over to the GoFundMe page. It'll explain it all there to you, and then we'll also cover it a little bit later on in the show. All right. Well, we have a packed show here for you tonight. We have actually 3 guests lined up here. We're going to be starting off tonight in our first hour with Stephen Schneider. And then we're going to be going over to Nate Smith and Daphne Armour from the Texas Nationalist Movement. That's going to be a great conversation. Looking forward to it. As you know, I'm a member of Texas, a member of the Texas Nationalist Movement. I have my Texit mug here ready to go. And so we'll be talking to them in just a little bit. But waiting in the wings, I see him sitting there in the little waiting room. We have Stephen A. Schneider. Stephen, welcome to the Joe Rooz Show. It's great to have you here with us.
Hey, Joe, how you doing? Good to see you.
Thank you for coming. Now, Steve, you're a middle grade fantasy author. You've made a mission to inspire creativity in kids through stories, video games, and music. You actually have a wolf.
Yes.
By the name of Hunter.
Full name's Hunter Moon.
Hunter Moon.
Moon. Yeah.
Moon. Okay. So without any further ado, I got to ask you, a wolf?
Yeah. Well, he's a rescue.
Okay.
My ex-wife actually rescued him. He was born with missing some bones in his forepaw on his right leg. So they were going to put him down, and he had been kept in captivity and abused a bit. It wasn't a real good situation. And they rescued him, but they were going to euthanize him. And she saw him and said, nope, I want him. So we ended up with a wolf. He is 75% Sarloose wolf, and the other 25% we're not really sure. There was no real records of him, so the vet had to kind of do DNA test and guess and all that.
Wow.
But he's a good, happy boy. He's even with the bad paw, he gets running around and jumping around, and he's a big, happy. He acts like a little puppy sometimes, but
I didn't know you could rescue wolves.
Well, there are wolf sanctuaries. I know there's one close to me here, and they will rescue hybrid wolves sometimes, but they try and stick with the purebred natural wolves that maybe get caught in hunter's trap, or somebody captured them as a pup and tried to raise them and realized, oh, this was a bad idea. They don't take hybrids as often. There are some that do, but they're all full and they don't have tons of money. So there's like, he's got a bad paw. He's only partly wolf. We're going to pass, unfortunately. So he was going to be put down, and now we have him, and he's a good boy. He's fun. Right now he's getting his winter coat in, so he's all fluff.
Oh, nice. I don't have a wolf. I have 2 French bulldogs, and they are shedding I can't believe how much these 2 are shedding this year. I don't remember them shedding that much ever.
Right. The good thing is he's an outside animal, so a lot of his fur's out there. He hates to be brushed, but he gets these big clumps, and we have to try and cut him out and brush him out. He hates it. I mean, even though he's family and he loves us and all that, we pull his skin a little bit, he'll snap at us, and it sometimes can get a little scary when he growls and bares his teeth, and you see the wolf come out.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Respect for the wild animal there.
That would definitely give us pause for sure. No,
Yeah.
not pause. But
Yeah.
right. Well, usually when we have guests on the show, usually the first question that I ask is, what's something most people don't know about you but should? But I guess having a wolf would satisfy that question.
Yeah. Most people are coming to know that about me because I use them a lot. Because I found out I took some author pictures with him. I'm like, oh, that'd be a nice picture, me hugging a wolf, and people started looking at the picture and asking me questions, and I'm like, well, lots of people are interested. So I started giving updates and more pictures. And I have a little wolf here that I put on my table for kids if they want to get one, because they all are like, oh my gosh, it's Hunter. And they love it, But what I do is I tell people that in truth, shh, quiet. Hunter tells me all the stories, but because he can't hold a pencil, I have to write them down. And I just take all the credit for it.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that. That's great. I was actually looking over your website earlier today, and I love the work that you're doing. I think it's great, and I kind of wish that something like what you're doing was available to me when I was a kid, because I used to write a lot of short stories and things like that, in school, and it was when, like you told me, I'm going to tell you a secret. I used to do that just to get out of doing certain assignments in the classroom.
That's crazy. No kid has ever done anything like that.
I know, terrible, right? I'm a horrible role model out there. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. Hey, so what's your go-to beverage to help you unwind?
You know what? Me and my daughter, when it was cold mostly, we would make ultimate hot cocoa. and I'm not a huge like alcohol drinker. Actually, it's funny I say that. I've got a few Jack Daniels, but I don't do that around the kids. Just occasionally.
Did you
I've
drink
got
that before you came on?
earlier tonight. It's just
Okay.
one. I mean, those things are basically Kool-Aid.
Well, I
you
was
know.
just asking because if I have to, I have a bottle of bourbon out there. I can go pour myself a drink, and we can,
Yeah,
throw some
no,
back
I
here.
drank that one, but I don't drink a whole lot. So me and my daughter would make ultimate hot cocoa, and that's what I still make, especially in the winter as it gets cold, which it's finally doing.
All right. So what is ultimate hot cocoa?
So we use regular hot cocoa with milk, warmed up milk in the hot cocoa, but then we put in some cinnamon and a drop of vanilla, and we get cinnamon sticks or peppermint sticks and mix it up with,
Wow.
and then of course some whipped cream on the top, not marshmallows, whipped cream.
Well, that sounds great. I got to try
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Well,
a little
you're
bit
gonna
of
have to send
cinnamon.
me. You're gonna have to send me some directions on this one. I'm going to try this thing out. That sounds pretty good. I like that.
And better yet, we have big Star Wars mugs. We have Yoda and Darth Vader that were like really big mugs that we used.
Who's who?
It depends on how we feel for the day. We switch back
Okay.
and forth.
All right. So you embrace both the light and the dark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it came from me and my wife. This one townhouse we had, first time we ever had a dishwasher. And to get used to it, we kept forgetting to take things in and out. So we got a Darth Vader and a Yoda magnet. Darth Vader was on there, they're dirty and need clean. If Yoda is on there, they're clean and somebody better pull them out.
Oh, that's a great idea. I like that. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. So, I said earlier that I love what you're doing with the kids and the storytelling and the writing. Again, I wish I had something like that. When I was a kid growing up, I probably still would have been writing today through that. Now you write fantasy for middle grade readers, and that's really kind of a special age, really, at that, because that's when your imagination just takes off, man, and just runs wild. What drew you to that audience?
I haven't really matured past it myself.
Okay.
So my kids, it's a quote from Doctor Who, but they always called me the intergalactic 12-year-old because I was I was a scout leader, Girl Scout and a Boy Scout leader, and the kids loved me. We had fun doing things. My Girl Scouts, I took them out tracking in the snow. Got a couple stories about that. But like one year we spent some time building a dollhouse because we thought the books requirements sucked, and I had so much fun doing the dollhouse, and I was always building Lego, getting on the floor. And, I remember G.I. Joe and My Little Pony and Star Wars all mixed together and big epic stories going on. So I never got past that thinking and stuff. And I see a lot of adults lose it and they don't know how to do that anymore. But I think part of it is now the kids aren't getting as much a chance to explore their imagination and live in fantasy worlds. So when I started to write, like anybody, I'm going to write the best novel ever and everybody's going to love it and it's going to be so good. And I'm writing and I'm like, and I can't get anything that sounds good and this sucks. And I was working with an author friend of mine, lives up in Cleveland, and he's talking to me and he's finally like, dude, why are you trying to write an adult thriller? I'm like, well, I don't know. What should I try and write? I don't know. He's like, because everything you do, your life revolves around kids. Try and write a kid's book. Oh, well, that's a good idea. And it flowed. It came out so much better. It worked so much better. And it just, I had to discover that and realize it. And since then, I've realized my life really has revolved around working with kids, helping kids, doing things with kids, playing Legos with kids and all sorts of things. So that's where it came from, because I see in the school teachers I admire and love, but they're stuck following certain curriculum. They have to do certain things. And I'm not trained as an academic teacher, education, anything. Okay. So I'm thinking a little differently outside the box and focusing more on the imagination and the storytelling. And, I can help kids write. I can help kids use their imagination. I'm not as concerned if they put the comma in the right place or if that word is spelled 100. We can fix the words. We can fix the grammar. That's what schools do well. So I work on the other stuff.
Well, that's great, man. I like I said, you do great work. And I was like looking at your website. I would encourage folks to go to your website and check it out.
Thank you.
Because I got a chance to read some of the blurbs from your books, and I mean, really well done. And I really do appreciate it. And again, I wish I had a resource like this when I was growing up, because I probably still would have been writing today. Now, video games are video game storytelling. Most adults think of video games as just entertainment, but you don't. You look at them as storytelling engines.
Yes.
How do you help kids understand that connection?
Well, that one's not that hard. When you get a kid and tell the kids like, hey, I can show you how to make a video game, and they need people that can tell stories. So let me tell you about, kids want to do video games. I found a software called Bloxels, which gives you a board and colored little blocks, and you put the blocks in, then you use an app to take a picture of it, and it turns it into a video game just like that.
Really?
And I started teaching some classes at the local rec center and stuff for younger kids, and started to find out that older kids were coming in, and occasionally an adult would come in. And I'm always with the adults. I'm like, this is not using like a game engine to create Assassin's Creed or anything. They're like, that's fine. I'm interested, but I don't know how to get into it. I'm like, this is just a taste of it. And they love it because it is so simple. They're not worried about screwing up. They're not trying to remember what combinations there are. They're just putting down colored blocks, taking a picture, and then playing a game. And I've done classes with kids. I did it at a STEM school, one of the STEM schools in the area. And these are some really bright kids that work with tech all day long. Mm-hmm. And I'm like trying to get through the first 10 minutes of explaining things. And I got kids going, hey, I just created this level and I got to the top part, but I'm stuck. I think I broke. And they found a bug in the first 10 minutes before I was even done talking. And I got in touch with the company. They're like, oh yeah, that was a bug. We'll get that fixed. So, it was a great experience because the kids just glom onto it and explode without having much instruction. But what's really great is then I tell the parents, it's like, look, would you rather have them making video games or playing video games? Because if we look back like 120 years ago, the film industry was just getting started. And if you said, I want to be a screenwriter and go to Hollywood and write movies, write stories for movies, people would be like, you're crazy. That's never going to go anywhere. And now look at it. If somebody said, hey, I'm going to Hollywood to be a film writer. All right. That's awesome. People love it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where video games are evolving to. The storytelling narrative designer is new. They actually didn't have a dedicated person doing story up until like the last 10 or 15 years in most studios. So there's still a lot of growth and opportunity as a storyteller in video games.
So can you explain how video game storytelling works and how it differs from traditional book or storytelling? So
that's I'm sure you've played some video game. So you have an idea of how it works you make the choices most of the time of what you want. It's like a choose your own adventure book, which is one of the things I use for training, doing choose your own adventure, like Dungeons and Dragons, where you present to the player something and they tell you what they're doing. That's kind of how video games work. So those are things I use in teaching kids to lead up to video games. What makes a video game story different is it's more than just the background. Nowadays, you have story within the levels. Think of Space Invaders. Aliens are invading Earth. You have a base and you have to shoot them and kill them. End of story. That's the entire story of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you look at, like I mentioned, like Assassin's Creed, and it's got multiple games with this interwoven storyline. And within the level, there are things you do that interact with the story. Or Skyrim. Not only did Skyrim have a great story of its own with lots of DLC, but it had lots of little books that told the history that you could gather throughout it. So for story, a lot of times story in video games, they come in afterwards. That's not as true with something like Skyrim. They have to have that right away. Or the new Diablo 4. I was talking to the guy that helped write some of the story for Diablo 4, and they're there at the beginning and they're coming up with the background to get you set up to start. Because in a book, you have your beginning, you have your setup, you have where it introduces the character, it introduces the world, and then the conflict. Whereas a video game starts at the conflict and takes you on from there pretty much.
Right. Yeah.
So the narrative designer has to help coordinate between the level designers and the game engine designers and all that for the story of the character, which means Nathan Drake in the Uncharted games, Okay. Yeah, it'd be great game level designer if he pulled out a bazooka and was just shooting people like Rambo, but that's not fitting the character. That doesn't fit our story. It doesn't fit so you get that type of thing. The game Cuphead. I don't know if you ever played that. Really challenging vintage, old style video game. It's a screen that you shoot a guy or you're jumping over things, and it's very, very, very difficult. But they did the story at the last minute. And I interviewed the guy that helped do the story. And it was more a matter of making a story fit what they were trying to do. So it's still a growing, changing thing that they're doing. As an example, though, Assassin's Creed, one of the tools they used for that is a tool called Twine. And I use it in some of my teaching. Basically, Twine is a graphic choose your own adventure creator. It's an app that helps you create choose your own adventures. And that is the exact tool they use to create the branching story elements in Assassin's Creed.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's interesting. And it's funny because as you're telling the story, you're explaining this, I'm thinking you mentioned vintage games. You know what popped in my head?
What?
Pong.
Pong. See,
Pong?
There's no story to Pong.
No whatsoever. Pong was great, man. I love that. And then I think probably the first game I ever played that had a storytelling element to it was Resident Evil, the original one.
I just played that yesterday because it's on sale on Xbox.
Man, I haven't played that in like forever. I had it on PlayStation when it
Oh yeah.
came out.
Well,
And,
if you still had it, it's worth quite a bit of money. The original.
I wish. I wish. But yeah, that was a great game too. And I actually like the storytelling element. And I don't know if it really correlates with it, but it reminds me also a lot like I remember when I was a teenager, we used to, before like video games really became something big, we used to do a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. So I see how there's like a little bit of a connection there. Like
yes.
The transition from that type of gameplay to storytelling video gameplay. It's pretty interesting. Now, do you think technology, especially the video games and the screens, has helped or hurt creativity in kids?
That's a really tough one. And I think there's a couple different ways of looking at it. I think more so than the screens, I think our culture and the parents could be actually blamed a little bit more for that, because parents aren't encouraging kids to be creative, aren't encouraging them as much to draw, to read, to create a cartoon instead of watching a cartoon. Well, if they even really have many cartoons, they have anime and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So I think parents, it's too easy for parents just to let a kid stare at the screen, whatever they're doing, watching YouTube or just playing a video game. I was always of the type, I got my Commodore 64. I had an Atari. I was lucky. I got an Atari right when they came out, had plenty of games on that. Then I had to have my 64. But the best, I had tons of games, believe me, tons of games on the 64. But the best thing was you could program it. You could learn to program and make your own games. You could do your own stuff. And, and I've always been that creator type. You mentioned D&D. Plenty of campaigns did I create and lead people through. In fact, my son was in high school. I did one for Star Wars. All his friends came and we played a Star Wars adventure. And it is great training for that. But I just was always naturally that way. I just think kids are not encouraged. It's not looked upon as oh my gosh, you can create that thing as much as it may have been at one time or could be. There's too many people that, you're right. And I see this at my author tables. I get people that come up all the time and go, "You wrote these? Oh man, that is awesome." Then I get other people that go, "Oh, you wrote these? Yeah, it doesn't look that interesting." And they walk away. And it's like, really? What have you done in the last week?
Right.
It's just not as something that people view as important today, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that is unfortunate, actually. And that kind of leads into my next question for you is, and you kind of touched on it already, is what's missing most in today's education and parenting culture?
I've talked to a lot of teachers about this. I put right on my booth, teachers, big. I want to get teachers talking to me. I think we worry about spelling and grammar way too early in school. because when I talk to a lot of authors, they're like, I don't know how to write a book. And they spend all this time writing one book. But what they really do is spend a lot of time at conferences, at classes, at reading books on how to write books. And they spend all this time. But the problem is, until you've written a bunch, a lot of that advice doesn't click. It doesn't really make sense. It's known maybe academically, but how does it apply to writing?
It's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah. So when I talk to teachers, and I'm not going to change the education system myself. I need a little bit more heavyweight behind this. But instead of worrying about spelling lists and grammar in first, second, third, fourth grade, just let the kids tell stories. Let them write stories. Let them draw stories. Let them dictate stories. Walk around talking to themselves, telling stories. Do a campfire and everybody tells stories. Because if they're telling stories, they're using their imagination and creativity. And believe it or not, other things later in school will be much easier the more creative their brain can be. But then once they've told these stories and they've written these stories and they see it, when they get spelling lists, it will click better because, oh, you know what? I misspelled that word. Now I know how to spell it. Or, oh, I wrote this word, but now I'm learning how to spell it. And the next time I did it better. And the grammar, who cares about commas when you have one sentence on the board? It's just so academically disconnected from actual writing. And I think if we just let them tell stories for a couple grades, the rest of it would be easier for them later.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Actually, I like that. That's good. That's good. Now, in your stories, each one of your stories, you include words to know,
Yes.
which highlight words that kids may or may not be familiar with. You also have discussion questions, and there's also a section for where the kids can write their own adventure ideas,
Like a fan fiction, I hope.
Yeah. Okay. So, tell us more about why you include that in each one of your stories.
Because I know teachers are burdened. There's a lot of stuff on teachers. I had a friend that just got assigned math teacher because the old guy was leaving, and she came in and she's like, I don't have anything for math. And, to get a whole curriculum for a year was like daunting to her. So I want to help.
That's something you normally do. It's going to be a challenge.
Yes. And she hadn't been a math teacher before, so she didn't have much to draw on. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make it easier for teachers. Plus, my other stance is, instead of shoving books down kids' throats or stories down their throats that they hate or don't enjoy or mean nothing to them, let them read something they enjoy. You know how many kids, young adults I know that read a lot and started off by reading comic books? R.L. Stine, who we would all consider a very successful writer with a very good series, said, I didn't read books when I was younger. I read comic books. And then someone said, you might enjoy these, and pointed me to Ray Bradbury. And it was like a world opened up. It's the same idea as the writing. If you shove things at them that they hate, they're always going to associate, I hate reading. But if you let them read anything and they enjoy it, then when they see Shakespeare, when they see Bradbury and Asimov, when they see any of Game of Thrones or something, when they're later, they'll enjoy it more because they've had that exposure. And I think that's the other problem we need to correct, is let kids read whatever.
Yeah, and that's great too, because I remember when I was a kid, like I said, I used to write short stories and stuff. I had a teacher in fifth grade who would encourage me to read anything I can get my hands on. I was a great reader. I always was, and I still am. I love to read. I love to sit down with a book and just kind of go through it. Sometimes I read them a little too critically. So, and what I like to do is I do surveys. So I'll skim the book, and then I'll go back later and I'll actually read more detailed into it and kind of break it down. And I don't know why I do it that way. That's my fifth grade teacher taught me that, and it stayed with me all my whole life. But he encouraged, just like you said, read whatever it is that you're interested in. It doesn't matter what it is. And he actually would every once in a while, as a kind of like a reward for being a good kid, he would he'd give me a comic book to read, and or take home, or I was a very big fan of the Star Trek books, the novels that would
Yeah.
come out, like the alternate, not the alternate universe, but the the backstories and such, and yeah, and so he would do that. He would, if I did something really well, if I was struggling, like I used to struggle with math a lot, and if I did something successfully, he would get me a book, something that I'd love to read. And so it made me, well, I want to get another book, so I'm going to make sure I do this right, and it motivated me to do it. And that's exactly what I think what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic to do that, and that's and I love that you do that. I think that's a fantastic idea. Now, you also teach kids, you teach parents how to turn writing into a lifelong pursuit, even maybe even a career. I guess, what's the first step that for a family to take that would want to kind of push them along the path for that?
Everything we just talked about. The kids got to read, and they got to enjoy reading, and know what they like, and then they just got to tell stories. Not so. I made this mistake early on at a couple author tables. I had some younger kids. I'm like, oh, do you guys like to write? Meaning, do you like to write stories? Oh no, I hate that. And I realized I was saying it incorrectly. When they're in third grade, they may not like to write. It may be a difficult process, but telling stories, they may love telling stories. You ever have that chatterbox that just won't go to bed at night or backseat of the car? It's like, how many more miles of grandma's house do we have to listen?
That was my son.
Yes.
My son was like that. It drive me crazy.
We took martial arts, and our first year there, they did a Halloween party, and the instructor made the mistake. Any kids want to tell a story? Which I thought was great. My son immediately, yeah, I do. And he got up there, he started telling a story. 20 minutes later, he's still telling that story. The instructor's like, what the hell story is this? How long is it going? I'm like, I don't know. He's making it up as he goes. And he's like, oh. So he goes, all right, good story. And my son stood up, took a bow, and sat down right in the middle of a sentence, But that's the first step. That the kids got to enjoy enjoy reading, and they got to enjoy telling stories. When I was in Scouts, we used to sit around the campfire and tell stories. That's another skill that people don't do. They don't sit around even on their back porch with a small little fire going and tell stories. They may bitch about the day or talk about the sports game, but they don't tell a story. Christmas time in Victorian times, Christmas Eve was the time to gather around the hearth and tell ghost stories. That's where Christmas Carol comes from. Yeah. And that was a tradition that we've lost, telling those stories. So, that's the first thing. And do I think every kid is going to read and tell stories and become a James Patterson author? No, that's just not realistic. Any more than every kid out there swinging a bat right now is going to be on a pro team. It's just not happening. But I argue that if they're creative and learn to tell stories, they have a better chance of making money at it than the kid swinging the baseball bat. So that's, my argument on that. And with narrative design in video games, if they know how to tell stories, there's a good chance they could get a good job. And I'm talking like Blizzard was looking for narrative designers with no college experience, no college degree. They wanted some experience, starting at $94,000.
Wow.
So yeah, these are
wrong business.
Exactly. They're good jobs out there for that. And you can't argue that the video game business is too small and going away. It brought in more money in 2020 than pro football. So it's here to stay, and it's getting bigger. And that's just one avenue.
Especially with the advances they're making with AI, with video games, and that whole interactive aspect of it. It's I've tried to play one of those AI games once with the goggles and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and I felt like a flipping idiot. So,
and that's actually, we're going to need even more storytellers to help guide the AI and get the basics for the story on that. So it's not like it's going to replace storytelling. It's just maybe changing it again.
Yeah. And story, like you said, storytelling is a lost art.
Yes.
And that's the sad thing too. You talked about Victorian days, telling stories around the fireplace at home, Christmas time. I mean, that's not really that far back. I mean, when I was a kid, my grandfather used to do that. We would all sit around. We didn't have a fireplace, but we would all sit around in the living room on Christmas or any holiday. Really didn't make a difference what it was. And my grandfather was an old Sicilian, so he would come out. He'd bring out the guitar. And
Nice.
he would sit there and he would sing a couple of songs, and then tell a story about where that song came from and how it came about and why it was written and who wrote it and what it's really all about. And then he would tie that into another story, and he would just go on and on and on. And those are some of the best memories I have, is sitting around talking and hearing those stories. And it's sad. It really is sad that it's such a lost art, that people just don't know how to sit and tell the story. And I blame the fact that they're so engaged with what they're seeing on TV. It just sucks the creativity out of you, because it's all right there in front of you.
Video games are just a step above watching TV because it's slightly interactive. Multiplayer video games, at least you're talking to somebody. But I chuckle sometimes because people are like, oh, that's too much work to do that with my kids, and I have to monitor what they're reading. After this, I have to that, blah blah blah. But they'll gladly drop a couple $1,000s to take their kids to Disneyland, which was built on stories. That was Walt Disney's whole thing, was stories, bringing stories to families. You could argue, he screwed up all the Grimm's fairy tales and made them all very pleasant and friendly, but that's also what's going to sell. What are people looking for? You can't say he wasn't a good businessman.
Grimm's fairy tales are all quite grim, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? I actually have thought of hiring some people to create some video games based on some of the Grimm fairy tale stories.
That's a great idea.
And trying to adventure type on some of them, maybe a mixture with some adventure, some platforming, or, combat action, like the big bad wolf and the pigs keeping them from the houses, whatever. And then it's, hey, this is from a story. Here's a story. Maybe have part of the story interwoven with the video game action to introduce these to kids. Aesop fables. We could do little video games based on those short little Aesop stories.
Well, that would be awesome. Some of those stories, and I remember reading those things as a kid. I used to have this incredible book collection, and over my parents got rid of them when I became an adult and moved out and on my own. I had all that stuff in my parents' garage, and they needed space. And so without thinking, they just said, he doesn't want these anymore.
My dad did that to my Star Wars stuff.
Oh,
We'll stop right there.
yeah. That hurts. That hurts.
Oh, it still does.
But this collection that I had was all of those stories, the Grimm fairy tales, the Aesop's fable, all the unedited,
Oh yeah.
The full story, unabridged stories. And I had a copy of, I had a hardback copy of Bram Stoker's Dracula. When was it published? It was published in the early 1900s.
Yeah, I think 1890 when it first came out.
No, the original book
story,
but the copy that I had was printed in the early 1900s, like 1925, 1930, somewhere around there.
Wow.
It was my great grandfather's copy, and I had that. I had so many books. They were just amazing books. I miss stories like that. And a lot of those books too, a lot of those stories, like you said, the Aesop's fables, the Grimm's fairy tales, all that stuff would make great video games.
Yeah, and they're public domain.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true. They are. So
yes,
go for it, man. Do it.
Star Wars IP. How much time in the day is there? Because there's a lot of time writing.
Well, sir, if you really have your heart for it, you'll find time.
You know what? I've been really thinking of it. I've got a couple other things I've been trying to get finished. I may try, and nothing elaborate. I'm not talking about the 100-hour game. This is a simple little games is what I'm trying to look for. So it may still come about. It's still a project on the back burner.
My son, talking about games like that, like story games. My son sat down one time. I bought him Call of Duty, like one of the early versions of it. He was a kid, like a little kid, and it worried me, to be quite honest with you, that he was so proficient in executing these plans in this game. And I was like, well, either he's going to grow up to be a mercenary or a Marine sniper or a hitman.
And now they hire all these top level kids to do the drones because they need precision control. So yeah, the video game playing really did come about for some. As many kids get hired for that as become professional ball players, I think, so.
Yeah, I get you. So where do you think opportunities for young storytellers will open up in the next decade?
Oh, well, I don't think video games are going away. We've got plenty of those. And a lot of people are like, books are dead because of AI. But I think that's actually going to help if you're a good storyteller, because people are going to want authentic human written stories. And it's even, I see it even now. So there are still going to be people buying books, still buying those stories. But we've got, YouTube, the videos. So many of these kids do these videos that are just quick 5 seconds. But, we're going to hit a point where people are overabundance of that and done with it. And story is the next thing. But the big push in business is your business training, your business message through story. And that's a different way of telling a story, but they want someone that's good at getting their message across through a story format. So there's a lot of these still out there. It just, like anything, technology keeps changing. It keeps changing the opportunities and what's available. Is some of the old stuff, can I, you mentioned, Stoker, can I sit down on a typewriter and type up a manuscript and a publisher prints it and, it's the only book that comes out that week? No. As we were talking, 5,000 books probably got published on Amazon. Sure. So it keeps changing and you just got to keep up with it and keep looking for what's available. And the kids that are, in 4th, 5th grade now, by the time they're older and changing the world, there's going to be different opportunities even then. So it's hard to predict what's going to happen, especially because it changes every second week nowadays.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think about AI though? I mean, the temptation to use AI to do these things.
No, God, heck no. I've seen some stories written by AI and, I've played around with it a little bit. They suck. They're horrible. It reads badly. They're not well-written stories.
Well, there's no emotion behind it.
And it doesn't connect well. And there's just a lot of problems with them. Now, will that change and get better? I'm sure it probably will. So there you go. We're going to need people to write stories for our AI robot servitors that are roaming around. Everything's changing. AI is a tough thing right now because there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of people with opinions that really don't understand why they have that opinion. And I've always been a tech guy. So it's difficult for me to say, tech sucks in any form. Let's get rid of it. But the problem is people are still arguing whether we need AI or not. We're done past the argument. That's kind of like saying, should we go back to horse and carriage or are cars going to work for us? There's no argument anymore. We've got cars. We don't have blacksmiths. So we're stuck with them. AI's here. People are using it. And I think they're using it in ways most people don't realize. So the argument we should adjust our focus instead of so much should or shouldn't. More on how can we use it? How can we use it in a way that doesn't hurt other people and is the best benefit to all of us? I'm all for if I write stories that people really love and they want to use my stories to train AI in some authored LLM. But when somebody goes to say, hey, create a story like this, and then they check off the authors they want, like Spotify, if I get some money for that, go ahead. It's not going to change my stories. That's not here yet. That's where it kind of needs to go. Yes. Should authors get paid? Should artists get paid if their stuff is used to train? Absolutely. But here's my example. And I know some people have frowned on me about this. I know there's probably people out there wanting to hit me with a baseball bat for this, but my book covers were drawn by an artist up in Cleveland by the name of Tom Zoller. He was involved with the My Little Ponies reboot like 10 years ago. That's how people might know him. And they're wonderful covers. I love them, but they cost me a couple $100, which is still really cheap compared to some book covers I've heard from people. But along with these stories, I wrote some short stories that I offer for free to get people into the world that go along with it. They're not big enough stories on their own, they go with it. I use it for marketing. I give them away on my website for free. I don't make money off of those, but I want to draw people in my series. Well, honestly, I don't have the money to give Tom another $2,000 for these short story covers. And then I'm not going to make any money off it, because that money then would take away from anything I make off of my books. It's my real life situation. I'm not James Patterson that I can just throw the money wherever I want.
Yeah.
So I've used AI to create the covers for those short stories because it didn't cost me anything, and those stories are free anyway. I did not have it do it in the style of Tom, not trying to steal his style. There's a different style for those short stories. Now, if suddenly, Warner wants to make my books movies and everybody's buying my books, I'll probably get them redone with a real human doing the covers, probably Tom, so it's all consistent. It can be a rough thing, but my argument is, let's say there's somebody out there that has a great kids book story idea, wonderful idea for a kid's book. That's the book needed by certain kids, but they can't get it out there because they can't afford to pay somebody to draw all the pictures in the book. Well, by saying they can't use AI to make the art, you're denying them the opportunity to get their book out. You're denying them the opportunity to make money because they can't afford to pay somebody else for the pictures. That's hard for me to say, well, they shouldn't, because it'll rip off artists. They wouldn't be able to pay them anyway, but now their book can get out for those kids that said, oh my gosh, that's the book for me. And I know somebody is probably going to want to get in my face for that type of thinking and attitude and all that. But, that's the situation. In some people's cases, we could get stories we may not have gotten, picture books that we may not have gotten, because somebody can use AI to make those pictures instead of having to pay thousands of dollars.
Right. Well, when I was thinking about AI also is the ease of access to AI generated material stifling the creativity of a young mind coming into this. That's kind of what I was wondering about.
That's a concern. We already got kids just watching YouTube for 6 hours every night. If they can,
and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's something that parents have to be active in their kids. Don't just say teachers and blame it all on teachers. Parents have to be the ones active in their kids' lives.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. You're the parent. You need to be involved in their life. You need to be involved in everything that they're doing. That's how I was raised. My parents.
That's called raising your child.
Yeah, my parents were very involved in every little thing I was doing. They knew exactly where I was going, what I was doing.
But not being a hover parent.
No, exactly.
You got a D. Well, I'm going to go yell at the teacher. You got in trouble because you were picking on a kid. Well, I'm going to go down to that school and talk to them.
No.
What were you doing? Wow. I'm not condoning that, but that's just how it was.
That's how I was. My dad, I was terrified. If I got a bad grade, my dad didn't say blame the teacher. He was like, well, what are you not doing that you couldn't get a better grade?
Yeah, exactly.
And he would make me think about that, because by asking the question that way, what are you not doing that you could have gotten a better grade?
Because what are you really sending your kids out into the world when they're adults? If you ran and blamed everybody else for any of their problems growing up, they need to fail. They need to face things. Mm-hmm. I had that when I was a scout leader. A couple arguments with other parents and leaders because we did certain things and they got upset. Well, they don't know how to do that. They'll fail, blah, blah. Okay, good. They'll fail. You know how much they're going to learn from failing? Trust me.
Absolutely.
It's the best thing. And it was a difficult thing sometimes because some people don't get it in today's world, which blows my mind. But
yeah, exactly. I agree with you. It's people don't really understand, and I can't stand. And I'm going to aggravate some people when I say this, but I cannot stand when I hear adults and parents blaming everybody else in the world around their child, for the mistakes that their child makes. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to have a failure. you take that and you use that as a learning experience, a teaching moment. You could tell them, well, this is what you did, and this is the result of what you did. What are you going to do that's different to not get that same result? You know, you have to be involved in your kid's life. I cannot. I never understood that when my kids were young. My wife and I at the time, we both had to work full-time jobs. It was hard. Easy excuse to say, well, I have to work. We both have to work. You can't afford this. But you know what? You made time to be there with the kids. You made the time. So what? Your day off is Saturday, and the kids had this, and this, and you just wanted to sit around and relax. Hey, you know what? Your kids are more important than that. You take your kids, you go do what you got to do with your kids. You raise your children. Don't leave them to somebody else to raise, because then you're going to complain, well, my kids weren't raised the right way. Well, who raised them?
Absolutely.
So it's we can go on and on about that stuff.
We could. That's a whole parent teaching discussion there.
Yes, sir. So let's see. So we had this conversation was great. I love this, and I love your energy on this thing, and I love your excitement about what you're doing, and it's refreshing to see. So what's the takeaway for the audience out of this whole conversation that we've had?
One, get your kids interested in using their imagination, and instead of buying them 5 video games for Christmas, buy Lego. Instead of buying a Lego set, buy those buckets of just plain Lego and sit down on the damn floor and build some stuff with them. That's the other thing. If you don't have Lego are expensive. That's fine. Go look at Dollar General. Do you know how many craft items and stuff they have there that you can create so many things? I have a box that I still have some old board games I created when I was like 8 years old. They all suck. They're horrible. But I made like 10 different board games to play for me and my cousins. Kids need to do that. Encourage them to do that. Encourage them to create. Encourage them to read. Let them read whatever. Talk to them, monitor, and see what they're reading. It's everybody. I was reading Stephen King when I was 8 and 9 years old. That was some of the early stuff I got. I was reading Hardy Boy in kindergarten when most kids were still working on the Val characters. So I was a very early reader. I read my mother got me a Stephen King box set when I was 8 years old for Christmas. I don't even know if she knew what it was, but it was very popular. Then she got me Lord of the Rings the year after that. So, my kids read whatever they wanted, and they both turned out as well as I did. So arguably that, some people could say that wasn't really great, but I think they did fine. So, that's it. Get your kids doing things. Go to libraries, because libraries have so many cool activities they do that get kids excited about it. I do a workshop talking about story structure, beginning, middle, end with kids. I tell them, hey, I'm supposed to have a story idea to my editor tomorrow, but I've been playing video games and I didn't get anything done. Can you guys help me? Oh yeah, kids love helping adults. Here, I need ideas for a story. And as they're doing it, I'm like, okay, that sounds like the beginning of the story, don't you think? And the beginning is where we do this, and I mix in the teaching with it. But I got kids jumping out of their seats wanting to tell me ideas, and they're like hungry for it because they don't get that very often, and they want the. I went back the following year to that same school. I had kids running up to me, look, I made a book, and they folded over paper and they wrote in it and drew pictures and put cardboard on it and glued it together and stuff. We need more of that. Romper Room is where I got a lot of that. We need Romper Room to come back.
I remember Romper Room. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had some great things growing up, right? I don't think we're too far away from each other in age.
No, probably not. How old are your kids?
My son is 26. My daughter's be 30.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Wow, I can't believe I just said that. My daughter's gonna be 30.
Scary, huh?
Holy cow.
Yeah. Remember when you were 30, you were probably just about having kids.
Yeah, actually, let's see. I got married. When did I get married? I got married. I was 23 when I got married, and my daughter came along in 1996. So it was 3 years after. So yeah, it's been
wow. Scary. So just think of could be a grandparent soon.
Well, I am 3 times.
Oh, okay, well, great, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. My daughter, she's amazing. My son too. I mean, I'm incredibly proud of myself. My son was diagnosed very young with Asperger's. And,
okay. My stepson has that.
So he struggled, socially awkward, that type of thing. honestly, if you met him, you wouldn't even know. You know,
Right.
it's just that's so slight, so subtle. But he did struggle. He struggled with his reading, his math skills. He's struggled all that stuff, and I'm incredibly proud of him. He's really made a career for himself. He works for a big chain place, and he's in the management training program for that. I'm
Nice.
incredibly proud of him what he's doing. My daughter, 3 kids. She graduated a couple of years ago with her MBA from Columbia with
Wow.
honors while she was pregnant with baby number 2 and working full time. Her husband working full time. It's I'm incredibly proud of them. And I just cannot believe
Good.
that I have 3 grandkids and I have.
So get some Lego, Joe. Get
Yes,
on the
sir.
floor. So
I just don't get
well,
to see them very often. That's the problem because they're up.
let me shoot this out. So this book is coming. The Oddish Questers is loosely based on my family, my kids and my stepkids. It's a sibling investigative group. My one stepson has Asperger's and he's in the book. And I tried to write him like he is and like the family is with him, because people who don't have anybody with that in their family, they want to tiptoe and they want a special treatment, and they make them feel bad because they're getting treated different. They know they're getting treated different and they don't want that. They don't want it because it points it out. And they hate that. My stepson hates when people are treating him different because of his problem, So the family knows how he thinks differently. And we talk to him in a way that makes sense for him and stuff sometimes. And I tried to capture that in the book, and it is so difficult because I'm afraid that somebody's going to jump on me and say, well, that's mistreatment. That's this. And I tried to address those issues in the book while still making it a fun adventure book,
Well, I want to get a copy of that when it's available, so I'll make sure I'll get in touch with you. And all right, so who is somebody that you respect right now, and what are they doing that inspires you?
Well, I mentioned Stephen King. I've always loved his books. I admire what I was going to name my pseudonym was going to be Stephen Ace, because an ace beats a king. But I may do that later. But some of the people jumping on him because he said some things, and then his books got burnt and banned, and he's the most banned author. And he's like, you know what? Go ahead. And he tells kids, if they want to ban me, that's the books you should read. And I like that attitude,
That's good. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. So where can the audience go to get more information about you, your work, and everything you're doing?
Everything's on my website, sa-schneider.com. That's sa-Schneider, SCHNEIDER. It's right there under me. And then .com. And everything's there. Links to all my other social media. I do videos for teachers and resources, along with hunter updates on Instagram and YouTube. So I've got a lot of things going on, a lot of sticks in the fire burning.
All right, outstanding. And all of your information that I have available is going to be in the show notes, so people can be able to click the link in the show notes, and it'll take them right to your website and all the information about you. So that is fantastic. Stephen, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really do appreciate it. Our next 2 guests are waiting in the wings, so we're going to take a quick bathroom break, and then we'll come back and get to Daphne and Nate. But Stephen, again, thank you so much for being here tonight. This was great. I really love what you're doing, and
thank you.
Please keep going with it. This is fantastic work. Thank you.
Yeah, this was a great show. It was fun talking to you. It went too fast.
Well, anytime you want to come back, you just let me know, and we'll get you.
Once the next couple books come out, maybe we'll talk, because they'll be interesting to talk about.
All right, outstanding. Looking forward to it.
Great.
All right, thank you. Stephen Schneider, folks. Make sure you check him out. Check his website out. All his information is going to be available to you in the show notes right down below there. All right, so like I said, I'm going to take a quick break here, maybe 2 minutes. Just going to run to the little boys' room. And when we come back, we'll get to Daphne Armour and Nate Smith of the Texas Nationalist Movement. And we're going to talk about some really, really interesting things. Like I said, I got my Texan mug. We're ready to go. All right. So we'll be back right after this. Don't forget, this is a live show, weeknight, 7 p.m. Central Time. Check us out. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Live show, 7 p.m. Central Time. Hit that like button. Follow us. And yeah, make sure you hit the like button too, because that does help the algorithm, helps us get found. So please check it out. All right. So folks, Joe Rooz Show. We'll be right back. You just stay with us. righty. Hey, folks, we're back. First hour is in the books. Second hour about to get started here. And we're going to have two very, very special guests, Nate Smith and Daphne Armour of the Texas Nationalist Movement. Great organization, been part of the Texas Nationalist Movement for some time. Been following them even longer. It's very interesting. We'll talk about that momentarily. Folks, just want to remind you also to please check out the show on Rumble, rumble.com/Joe Rooz. You can also check us out on YouTube at Joe Rooz, and of course, X, Facebook, all those great places to check us out. Also, all the audio is available to you on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, all those places, and also across all the modern podcast 2.0 platforms. So check them out. All right. Everything here is just shut off on me. Let me boot everything back up again. I don't know what happened there. The joys of doing a live show, folks. Live shows are always so much fun. So, as I've been indicating, our second pair of guests tonight is a dynamic duo, Daphne Armour, Nate Smith, with the Texas Nationalist Movement. Daphne's been part of the TNM for the last 18 years, from what I understand, serving both from county coordinator to chief of staff, helping to build one of the largest political advocacy groups in Texas from the ground up. She's an entrepreneur, strategist, and now traveling around Texas with Nate as a speaker for the Texan Arise campaign, which we'll get into. She represents Texas independence with unmatched energy and expertise. And then we have Nate Smith. He's been advocating for Texas independence since 2009, serves on the TNM national leadership team. He's trained hundreds of petition circulators, gathered thousands of signatures, even carried the message of self-determination to international stages. He's also a singer and songwriter. You going to sing for us tonight?
Well, not tonight.
Okay. Using his music to celebrate liberty, love, and the Lone Star spirit with songs like Texan Arise and Leave It Better. Now, together, they're leading a new project, Texan Arise, a bold initiative to train and mobilize 1,000 volunteers for the 2026 elections. The mission of this campaign is to reshape the Texas Legislature to reflect the true will of the people, including the growing demand for a referendum on Texas independence. The Texan Arise campaign is a call to action for Texans who want to make a difference but may not know how. Daphne, Nate, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us tonight.
Hey, no problem. I've been actually looking forward to this. This is when I was talking with our producer, Anonymous Angela, as we call her.
We know Anonymous Angela.
Did she tell you the story behind Anonymous Angela?
No, she didn't.
Why that is? Okay, well, so when she first started helping me out with the show, I wanted to give her credits, and because I put all the producers of the show, folks who contribute their time, their talent, their treasure, they all get a mention on the show, every show we do, and they're also included in all our show notes. So I sent her a message. I said, hey, I need a headshot, and I need a little bio, and all that stuff. And she was like, well, I really don't want my name. Like,
that sounds like Angela.
I was like, well, it's too late. I already told everybody your name. So I said, all right, well, we'll just go with Anonymous Angela. She doesn't want to be known, so Anonymous Angela. That's the origin story behind it. But she's been a great help, and I really do appreciate everything she's doing. Now, I've been actually following the Texas Nationalist Movement since 2015, 16, somewhere around there. And actually, I used to do a show up in New York. I'm from New York originally. I did a show up in New York, and we actually had Daniel on the show. And it was very, so that's how I met him and came across him, and it was great. And I've been following for a while, and then I finally made the move, came down here to Texas, and about almost 10 years ago now. And I wanted to get involved with the organization, so here I am, and here we are. And it's
you a Texan now, Joe?
I love Texas. I do. Although I'm told I can't call myself a Texan because I'm not native born.
You can call yourself.
Who told you that?
Somebody lied to you.
A few people told me that. Yes, a lot of people that I work with say that too. You're not a Texan. You can't be a Texan. You're a Yankee.
Look, you just tell them you're a Texan and ignore everything else they say after that. That's what a Texan does, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But the transition from New York City to Texas was just. It was a lot easier than I thought it would be. I guess I was just so burned out from New York that I just couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. And the opportunity came up to come here, and I've been down here in Eagle Pass now for almost 10 years. So it's been great. It's been great. And getting to know the folks with the Texas Nationalist Movement has been incredible also. I mean, everybody's just friendly, welcoming, incredibly knowledgeable about the subject matter, passionate about the whole thing. And, you know, I always said before we came on the show tonight that, you know, it really does feel like family. You know, I feel like I've known the two of you for my whole life. And, you know, and that's because we have a common bond. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And it's that we want to see a free and independent Texas. And I think that's incredibly important. And I'm hoping, and my prayer is that it happens in my lifetime. And if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, I want to be a part of the effort to get it done even after I'm gone. So I want to be able to be a part of that. So I have a couple of quick questions I always like to ask every guest that comes on the show. So we'll start with Daphne. So ladies first. What's something most people don't know about you but should?
Okay, do you want that in a personal answer, or do you want that in a Texas independence answer?
Whatever you
Joe,
want.
that could be a trick question.
However you want to put it out there. It's up to you. It's open.
Okay, everybody should know that I am not married to Daniel or to Nate.
Are you still in mine now?
I almost spit out.
Well, you laugh, but you don't understand how often that we get asked that question.
Really?
It used to be with Daniel all the time. And then, because, you know, I travel with Daniel a lot as well. And Daniel's not traveling quite so much now. And Nate and I are on the road coupled together all the time, too. And it doesn't matter where we go. Everybody just assumes he's my husband or I'm his wife. I said, no, it's more like a mother-child relationship. I just boss him around all the time.
That's great. So, Nate, what about you? What's something about you most people don't know but should?
Well, I don't know that they should know it, but I love adventure. And so, you know, if anybody wants to do anything adventurous, anytime you want to go hiking or scuba diving or something like that, give me a call. Let me know. I'm happy to do it. All right. Well, I'm going to keep that in mind because there's a couple of things I have on my bucket list that I want to get done. So I need somebody brave enough to do it with me. Awesome. So we'll talk about that another time, though. All right. So since with Nate here, what's your go-to beverage to help you unwind at the end of the day? At the end of the day, oh man, let's see. What's the fair one that I have the most? Honestly, it's water with lime. It's the most common unwinding at the end of the day. Fair enough, Daphne.
Well, that depends on where my end of the day is at. If it's at home, it's probably water. If I'm out, it's probably tequila.
Okay, great. Well, mine is although I'm trying to stay away from it as much as I can right now, because it's expensive. I like good bourbons, and so I have a very refined palate when it comes to the bourbons. So it has to be something really good. As a matter of fact, I just ordered a bottle of a 7-year-old Paul Sutton. So I'm waiting for that to get to my local establishment over here. And I asked myself, how much is that going to set me back? And when she told me, I was like, oh, okay. So, but I'm the type of person. I'm sorry?
I said they can get pricey.
Oh, they can. Yes, they can. And I'm the kind of person that if I'm asking you to order something for me and you tell me how much it is after I've asked you to order it, I'm going to still pay it because I don't want to put you through all the effort and going around doing that stuff and not coming through on it. But Daphne, you've been with the Texas Nationalist Movement now for 20 years. What originally inspired you to get involved?
I think it's like 18 years. I think that's the right
nearly
number.
20 years. That's what I have in my notes.
Nearly 20. Okay, 18's nearly 20.
Yes, it
Gosh,
is.
that sounds like a long time when you say it that way.
That's amazing that you started when you were 10, right?
I know, right? Okay, I'm sorry. What was the rest of the question? The number's still swirling in my head.
What originally inspired you to get involved?
Well, I started off in the Tea Party and the Glenn Beck project, the 912 project, if you remember that. That's where I started at, and met political people. I didn't know anything about politics. Wasn't really interested in politics. I was a young mother, but it was just that time in the country where everything just didn't feel right. And somebody drugged me to a meeting somewhere. And so that's how I got started in politics. But anyway, when I was there, I met somebody that lived in my town, and she was like, hey, there's a guy that's going to talk about, he's from the Texas Nationalist, and he's going to be speaking in a hotel room. Would you and Dan, my late husband, would y'all come with me to see him? And we're like, well, sure, we'll go with you to see him. And so we did. We showed up in Beaumont, Texas in a hot hotel room right off the freeway there, and we sat on the front row. Imagine that. And Daniel spoke, and my husband was Dan, and we looked at each other and we're like, yeah, this resonates. This makes sense to us. We got up, we walked to the back table where Kara was. We signed up as volunteers right there, and we've never left. That's literally the story of what happened. So, we immediately went into the organization, and because we were local, we started attending the local meetings, which at that time Daniel ran. And so that was interesting. And so we did that, and then eventually both moved into county coordinator positions. And then from that point on, just moved up the ranks, and here we are today, 18, almost nearly 20 years later. Some days it seems like that, and some days it doesn't seem like that.
Well, you can blame Angela for that, because I think she phrased the question. So.
That's fine. That's fine. It's hard for me to even fathom that sometimes. I think, golly, where'd all that time go? Yeah,
I know. Well, in the previous guest, I don't know if you heard what we were talking about, but I mentioned I can't believe my daughter is 30 years old this year.
Mine is too. Mine just turned 30 last month. So
where did all the time go? It just flies by. It's crazy. So Nate, what about you? You've been with the organization since 2009. What was your motivation to get started?
Yeah, well, it kind of goes with my political thing. I mean, I saw 9/11 happen, and I did not like what happened after 9/11 politically. And, I'd been in the conservative Republican side thinking that that was going to shrink government. And I saw that we grew government after that as a result. And so it made me question a lot. And so when this guy named Ron Paul came along in 2008 running for president and started saying all the right things about fiscal responsibility and, non-interference in foreign wars, and that all resonated with me a lot. And so at that same time, I'd been working with Daniel and Kara Miller. They have a radio station called Radio Free Texas. I've been involved in the Texas music industry for that long. And so we'd been working together. Well, I had no idea that they were involved in the Texas Nationalist Movement. And so we're working one of their rowdy float trips together. And Daniel goes, hey, what do you think about this Texas independence thing? And I kind of saw him behind the scenes. They were keeping it separate at the time. And so he's wearing this shirt, and I'm like, I hadn't really thought about that. I'm like, why wouldn't we just work to save the Republic, And he goes, well, let me ask you this. Why do you think Texas isn't good enough to be its own nation again? And I'm like, touche.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, he got me with that one too. Yeah.
So I dug in from there and was quickly sold. I was like, yeah, it'd be nice to. And then it also didn't take much convincing that the federal government does not want to be saved.
Oh no, it doesn't. Absolutely not. And the evidence of that is its refusal to shrink itself. So it's just a monstrosity, and that's why I call it that all the time. And I agree with you. I was working for New York City at the time of 9/11. My command was just down the street from the towers. I worked on the pile for about 6 months and did security details and all the other stuff that went along with it. And then to see all of the those draconian security legislations and bills and such that come through, the Patriot Act, which was nothing of the sort. It left a really bad taste. And little by little, man, I agree with you. I started looking around, and I started thinking back towards, well, what would our founding generation be thinking about with this thing? Because you said something very interesting also, talking about not getting involved, like as the Ron Paul stance. I wouldn't say it's a non-interventionist view, but it's I think it's more not an isolationist view, but it's more of a non-interventionist view.
Right.
That I agree with our founding generation. I agree with Ron Paul in this. Peace and commerce with all, entangling alliances with none. We should not have military installations all around the world. We should not. How would we feel if China set up a military installation in the middle of San Antonio?
I don't remember which country it is, but somebody's working on it right now, and I'm already seeing opposition. From
Qatar, yeah.
Nobody has yeah, that's right. Yeah, Qatar. Nobody should have a military base on our soil, and it's like we have 1,000 bases in over 150 countries around the world. I don't think we have the right to say nobody should have one, but they shouldn't, and we should have it there.
I agree. And so when it comes to Texans Arise, tell us about that. What sparked that? How did this whole project come to life?
Okay, I guess Daphne's gonna let me take it. I was checking to see.
Doesn't matter.
Do you want me to moderate and say and pick people like in school?
No, it's
But we bounce off of each other so fast. Most of the time, we know what the other one's thinking, so it's fine.
Okay.
Well, so you did reference in my intro that I have a song called Texan Arise. So that sparked part of the name behind it, obviously. But what this is really about is, we're the Texas Nationalist Movement, right? It's probably not a surprise to many people that one of our key goals is to get and win a referendum on Texas independence. And in order to win that referendum on independence, we need to have a lot of volunteers that know how to win a campaign. Not only that, to get the referendum, we need a legislature that's going to pass the bill in order to win that, right? And so they need to win campaigns, the people that support that, and they need volunteers. So ergo, the Texan Arise program, this step in the process says we need to start training volunteers to win campaigns right now. And so we really want to remove any roadblocks or concerns people have about what it takes to get involved, how, this isn't a lifetime project. You don't have to sign up for a full-time job or anything else. We want to make sure that people have a clear understanding of what it takes to get involved in a campaign, and that there's a lot of different ways you can help, whether you have a lot of time or little, whether you have a lot of skills or little. We got stuff for you to do.
So walk us through a typical Texan Arise session. What happens from the moment that people walk in?
Oh, Dave, I'm going to let you take that one.
You want me to take that one?
Go for it.
Well, we greet them first, Joe.
Well, I hope so.
When they come in, no. So basically, we're trying to get the program cut down to about 2 hours because there's a lot of information that Nate and I have to deliver in the program. But basically, we're going to walk them through this, and our whole goal of it is to, like Nate just said, is to remove the fear. We want you to understand that everybody has to be a part of this process. People always want change, right? They want to see things happen. But what we find is that it's only a certain amount of people that will step up and actually go do the work. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we actually walk everyone through. We almost are to the point of calling it a civics class now, because we walk them through the whole Texas Legislature and hope that they have an understanding about how that works, how the bills work, what we have to do, those different things. Voting, we spend a whole lot of time talking about the different voting because, in Texas, like right now, we're voting right now, but what are we voting for? We're voting for 17 amendments that are added. Why do we have all these different voting things? But the main thing that we like to stress is, because of the program that we're doing, is going into the Texas primaries. And a lot of people do not understand that we have primaries in Texas, and then we also have the general election. But what happens in the primary? That's where you win elections at. And that is what is important. And that is when it's important to know who those candidates are, who's running against who, and if you've ever worked at a polling location while the primaries are going on, you'd be surprised at the number of people that walk up and go, well, I'm going to vote for the Republican. I'm here to vote for the Republican. Well, yeah, there's 4 of them on the ballot. Which one are you going to vote for? A lot of people don't know. And so what happens is what they'll do is they'll go in there and they'll vote by what they consider name recognition, what they've heard before, or if it's an incumbent or whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean that incumbent acts like a Republican, as we all know, or that they have conservative values or whatever values that you want to go vote for. We're not here to promote partisanship by any stretch of the imagination, but we want you to understand the process. And so we go all the way through that. We talk about some shenanigans and things that go on in the Texas Legislature, just things that we feel like that people need to know. And so far, Nate and I have found out that anybody who's attending our training did leave with information that they didn't know, and we're surprised at some of the things that they learned.
Well, that's interesting. You talk about the Texas Legislature, and I laughed when you said it. I thought New York was a corrupt mess.
It probably
I
is.
really, you know, but I mean, I don't know if
Texas is too.
I'm paying more attention to it here than I was back home or what, but I was so like just blown away by the lack of activity of the Texas legislature on important things. I mean, yeah, they passed a resolution honoring Beyonce. That was
Right.
priority, of course.
Right.
But things that really matter to Texans, like property taxes. You know, I just got a property tax hike that I have to go get a second job just to pay the taxes. You know,
And we hear that constantly.
yeah,
You know, everybody, that should have been one of the main things that they addressed this year. And as you see, they didn't. They barely addressed it. But it wasn't just this year. This has gone on for several sessions because people have asked for this multiple times because Nate, I think aren't we the fourth highest property tax state in the nation now? I read that
right.
stat somewhere just the other day, and it made me sad to read that. That's not what we want in Texas, and we don't want people, priced out of their homes because they can't pay property, especially elderly people and stuff, because they can't pay their property tax. It's ridiculous. But speaking to that, so that is one of the things that we teach you. Well, why didn't that get passed? And so Nate and I will go through the whole thing and break it down about how that legislature works, how you get the bills passed, why they're not getting there, how they stall, how the top establishment will stall everything out. They don't go to work. They take long weekends, and then we ran out of time. Well, yeah, because you didn't go to work for 3 months. You were there for 2 days a week. I don't get to work 2 days a week.
I remember seeing
it's insanity. Really, it is. And that's why we're saying it has to change. But the only that we can affect change is by getting a hold of that system and getting new people in there who demand change. Luckily we were able to do that in the last session. We got 10 new reps in there that were good. They voted, most of them all voted well and did the things that we wanted to do. And they were able to make a little bit of change while they were in there. Not as much as we all would have liked to have seen, but that's the only way. It's up to us to clean it up. There is no other answer right now. We cannot let the establishment maintain control of this. So that's how Texan Arise came about, because it's us griping at each other going, how do we fix this? What do we do?
Yeah, I became more aware of what was going on with the Texas legislature when I started going through the classes for the deputy county coordinator for here, from Maverick County. And also Brian Harrison. I love that man. I think he's great. Have you guys spoken to him at all? Is he?
Yeah.
Is he on board with Texas, or is he? Because I've sent him an invitation to come on the show, and I'm going to ask him about it. But
yeah, no, get him on the show. It'd be great. He has not signed the pledge yet, and I think he has some reservations and concerns that we haven't been able to address with it yet. So.
Okay.
But he hasn't firmly spoken for or against it. So
he certainly sounds like he's for it. If you listen to the things he says and you read the things he writes, like he's the one he pointed out how the Texas legislature would take these long extended weekends and leave all these items that are still pending and hanging there, and that the current Speaker of the Texas House wouldn't even allow them to bring matters to the floor for discussion. When I saw those videos and I heard the things that he was saying, I just like this is like New York, man. And that's scary, because I don't want New York here. I don't want California. I want Texas to be Texas. Yeah.
We should be the leaders right now. And
the Speaker has tremendous power, and I think Brian Harrison did a good job. He's been on War Room a lot, talking about how that has had an effect, what role that Speaker's played. And a lot of people haven't been aware of it. A lot of the stuff that goes on is backroom deals, right? Including the election of the Speaker has been a backroom deal until this recent time where I actually got to saw it play out in public, of who the Republican caucus chose versus who the House body chose. And, that makes a big difference in all this, because the power to appoint the committee members ultimately decides what bills ever get heard on the floor. And that's, so yeah, it's it does seem like he's in line with that too, because he's definitely a limited government person. And, overall, that's what we see. Like we talk about being nonpartisan. Obviously, there's a political majority in Texas that certainly resonates more with us. But anybody from any party that is for limited government should be resonating with this idea that Texans should govern themselves. So,
yeah, I just the sad thing is though is for the leadership in the Texas House. They're more. I'm trying to think of how I'm going to phrase this. I feel like they're more concerned about auditioning for a position at the federal level than they are about actually governing the state where their actual constituents are. And I see that, and I find it really disturbing, and it makes me wonder, like, how it's an uphill battle trying to get all the things that the TNM is looking to do into a serious conversation at the state house. I was going to say the steakhouse. I'm hungry.
we voted on steak names this year. That was important.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of steak,
New York strip, Joe.
Yeah. Well, hey, you can't. Yeah, that's a great cut, man. I got a couple of those in the freezer right now. So, but it concerns me about the future of a Texas independence when I see that the people that are getting into office here, it's to me it's like any other elected position. You campaign on what you want to do, and then when you get into that office, all of a sudden all of the little perks and all the little sways and all the little things that start to pull you away from what exactly it is you want to do. We need people in elected position that have that what's the word? The intestinal fortitude to resist the all of the entrapments, all the emoluments that come with elected position. I just feel like it's so easy to get corrupted up there. I mean, how do we fix that?
Well, how do we fix it is we elect better people, which is not an easy solution, but that's what Texan Arise is about. But you're right. It's a big problem. We see it play out both on the voter side and on the representative side. But yeah, the Texas politicians, whether they're in the executive branch or the legislative branch, you see this idea that they're playing minor league ball. I mean, and part of it's true, right? I mean, just a few sessions ago, we did a count, and 43% of the bills that were passed were referencing federal spending, federal legislation, federal oversight. So half of the work that they're having to do up there is in response to whatever the federal government does, which is not the way it should be. And even as a member state in the union, that's not the way the union was set up. But even then you have these ambitions to seek federal office as well. And so again, they're treated like they're playing minor league. And when you're having the conversations with them about important legislation, there are a number of them that are worried about their image and their future and what impact that will have as they seek federal office. And we see this play out on the voter side as well, where the voters, they spend all their attention watching DC. I mean, there's plenty to watch in the circus there. But they don't pay near as much attention as they should to the state government, which really has such a big impact in our life and a place where we can make a lot of changes and should be making the changes. And so this is a key argument for Texas independence is if you take away the whole level of the federal government, the federal bureaucracy, and let everybody focus on Austin, then we can get a lot of these problems fixed. Yeah,
I agree with you. I've always said that if you really want to make any kind of change, you have to get involved in your local government. It's easier to control what goes on in your state when you're only worried about your state house, which is only a few hundred miles away rather than 3,000 miles away and so far removed from the constituency that you're representing. I don't think, well, no, seeing all the corruption and seeing all the back end deals and all the backroom deals rather, it's discouraging to a lot of people, and people don't really want to get involved in the political process. What encouragement can we offer people, the average citizen, as to why they should get involved?
I think was played out this time. So there's a lot of talk about how bad it was. People were upset with the way the speaker race ultimately went. But as Daphne said, we got 10 really solid freshmen in this time at least. We saw about 20 people that are limited government conservatives that were helping to stop bad bills. They were, an overturned point of orders on good bills. So we saw a lot of techniques with that. But we're seeing this power shift, and that's a huge thing, right? Because before this, it just felt like it was impossible. Like, well, no matter what we do, we just end up with a supermajority of people that won't fight the system. They go in there, they get sucked in, and you got one or two fighters. But no, we're seeing a larger block come through. We're seeing the grassroots more united around this. More and more organizations are going, hey, what can we do to work together to help get these folks in? And, while ultimately you need a majority of the House, and we won't even get into the Senate, but we'll start with the House. While you do need a majority of that, there's a lot you can do with the powerful minority in there. When you're looking at the conservative side of things, of what it takes to advance that kind of legislation, and the speaker's a huge one. It was I can't remember the exact number of votes. It was about 25 votes or something short of having a different speaker this time. Would it have been a perfect solution? Probably not. But would we have had a speaker that would have chosen different committee members that would have made different blocks? Yeah. I mean, there's a number of things that happen with that. That's one of the things we talk about in the workshop, is that, seeing a different head of the calendars committee, that's a huge committee right there. Even if you get bills through these other committees, if you don't have calendars, it'll send it to the floor. It doesn't matter how they would have voted. You can get it there. And then, but even on these other committees, like whether they call it for a hearing, we had a good bill that got called up and got a hearing and got read. They never took a vote on it. It's like, and that's all within the control of the chair of the committee. And so having a speaker that will appoint more neutral parties as committee chairs will allow a lot more of this to take place and move through. And then you can work on actually whipping the votes that you need in order to get the result that you want in legislation.
Now, you mentioned that you have, 10, you said, freshman legislators?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number. There are 10. We use the 10 a lot because 10 legislators have signed the Texas First Pledge.
Okay.
Now, that was something I knew that we didn't touch on that when, the question that Joe had asked about, like, what do we do? That is what, as the TNM, that's what we did do, is create the Texas First Pledge. And we do have 10 of those signers currently on there that now serve in an elected position. And for us, that is one of the things that we could see would help to remove that blockade of, what's more important, the federal government to you or Texas to you. And so at least those people that signed that pledge so far have lived up to that. And, because it's just a pledge, but they have acted and voted in a manner that would support those things. And because it's just a mess, and we are trying to take steps and do the best that we can do to try to circumvent some of that and to get better people elected and into those positions, because ultimately that's what's going to help us get that referendum vote. But it's just like Nate said, not only is that who the speaker position is so important, because when they do place or pick who is going to work on calendars or state affairs or whoever, if you stack them all with all the entrenched people, that's how they maintain control. And then they only send through the legislation that they want, or you get that top down thing of, well, we're not going to work. Oh gosh, we got to go to special session. Oh, we got to go to 2 special sessions or whatever. Well, there's reasons why, and the reasons why all that happens is because that's their way of controlling everything.
I see.
And those are some of the things that we need to break within this whole process. And that is by electing, people that don't like what they see going on up there.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a huge jump from where we're at. While we saw this,
Right.
There's really probably about 30 representatives overall that took these more limited government type positions. Most of the time, it was only 20 acting at a time. There's about 10, 13-ish that are really consistent with it all the time. And then another group that was there when you needed them sometimes and would swap out. So you're going like, well, that's a long way from a 76 majority in the House. But like I said, the speaker race was kind of an example of you don't have to get that close. 56 voted for Republican caucus choice, which was David Cook. And that's 20 short of a win for him. So if you look at that, you're like, well, there's really getting 20 more people in there could have changed the speaker to a different direction. So it's not like you've got to make this huge jump. Like, well, we have to get 50 more. switched out. Another 10, another 20 will make huge progress. And so that's why we say there's hope. That can be done. And we've got a lot of good candidates that are running right now.
Well, can you talk about some of the legislators that are really working hard for Texas? Like what kind of support do they need? What could we do?
So volunteers for their campaign, for the ones, some of them don't have challengers in the primary.
Right.
In which case, they still need support for their campaigns in ways you can deliver. But what they really need is other people that will be in office that will help them continue the work they're doing. And so I know a lot of them, if they're not worried about their primary challenge, and most of them aren't worried about their general challenge either. 96% of House races essentially are settled in the primaries. So there's not very many races that are contested. That's 96% have less than a 5-point margin of or rather, only 4% have less than a 5% margin in the general election. So most of those are not close. Not that you can't turn them from one seat to the other, but that's why we say the primaries are the focus. So anyway, the representatives that don't have any significant challenges in the primaries, we have an opportunity to go help the ones that do, and make sure that they get pre-elected, and as well as making sure that these new challengers that are coming up that can replace ones out that have voted against this, the ones that consistently voted for big government policies, big government spending, that take this more federal level approach. They're the ones that need to be removed from office.
All right.
And I think another one of the things, just to add on to that, is people just, again, part of what we're doing, not only just training for the volunteers to not be, the fear factor of working in campaigns and what that looks like, but get to know your representatives. Go talk to them, call them on the phone, set an appointment, go visit them in their district if they're not in session, or in their office if they're at session. No, they want to hear from constituents. Talk to them about Texas independence, ask them where they stand, look them in the eye. Don't be afraid of them. They work for us. And I think that has gotten so shifted with not only at our Texas level, but even at the federal level, that they seem to forget that sometimes. And they need to be reminded all the time that they work for us. They are supposed to be voting the will of their district, not what their personal choice is. But if they don't hear from their district, if they don't hear from their constituents, then they're going to do what they want to do. So that would be the main thing. Just remove the fear. They're just people. And most of them are happy to see you and talk to you. Not all of them, but most of them are.
I guess it would be, what exactly you want to talk to them about. But you're right. You have to talk to your elected representatives, because that's what they are. They are representatives. They're representatives of the district and of the people of the district. And they do forget that, because there's so much money that gets funneled into them through lobby groups, especially at the federal level. I'm sure there's some of it here at the local level as well, but I'm sure not to the extent of the federal level. But they end up working for the lobby groups more than they work for the people that actually put them in that position. And then a lot of times you see these politicians, they talk down to the people that put them in that position. They berate them, they insult them, they call them all kinds of names. It's absolutely ridiculous. They do need, and that's because they're so far removed. I'm talking about the federal level, because they're so far removed from their home, their constituency, that they can get away with it. If everything was concentrated in the state itself, and they had to answer to you every single day, they saw you all the time, it would be a very, very different story. A very, very different story.
The pressure would feel so much different on them, and that they know that they would have to do what the constituents want, but they would feel the pressure because people feel like they could get to them easier and stuff. Right now, you and I, we can't affect anything in Washington, D.C. It's not going to happen. They don't care. I mean, John Cornyn is a perfect example of that. He's been a state senator forever. I don't even know how many years at this point, and he doesn't vote the way that people want him to vote. He doesn't do any of that.
No, and that's another reason why I believe there needs to be term limits for every elected position. To be in the Senate for 20 years or to be in Congress for 30 years is absolutely ridiculous. I look
And
at
they go
people,
in with nothing and they all come out millionaires. Imagine how that
multimillionaires.
happens.
Yeah, $175,000 a year. What do they make at the state level? Just out of curiosity.
I think it's about $7,200 a year.
Yeah,
It's
that's what I
nothing.
thought.
They get a per diem and a small stipend. But
Yeah.
so in Texas, we want people to be represented. That's why we have the biannual legislature. They only meet once every 2 years for a short period, excluding special sessions, and we don't pay them anything, which is it has its ups and its downs. The idea behind that is great. That it's like, this isn't your job. You have another job. You provide value to society in another way, and you're being a public servant. The downside of that is that only people that are kind of self-employed or lawyers tend to be the ones that have the resources to be able to go do that, because it is a lot more than just the time they spend in session. They spend a lot of time outside of session too. And so, that might be something worth re-looking at. It shouldn't be a wealthy job like Congress is.
Right,
but
yeah.
making sure that they have a little more resources to cover the basic needs would be good, because you would like to see an everyday citizen be able to say, hey, look, I want to step up and run for office, even though I won't be making as much money as a school teacher, but I can provide a true public service and still be able to maintain a job that's not a high paying job. So
Yeah, no, I know that at the founding of our country, it wasn't intended for Congress to be living in the seat of general government all year long and having to have a home, especially in Washington, D.C., and then a home in their district and all that stuff. They were only supposed to go when they were called into session, just like the way Texas does it. You're called into session, you go, you take care of your business, you go back home, you go back to your farm, you go back to your ranch, you go back to whatever it is that you do on your normal day. And then, when you're needed to come into session, you go. That's the way it was supposed to be, and that's the way it should be. Somebody once said that the actions of the federal government should not impact the average American's life in any way, shape, or form.
right.
And it's quite the opposite. One of the examples I always use is, why is it necessary for the federal government to regulate how much water's in my toilet?
I use that one all the time, or tell me what kind of light bulb I have to install.
Yeah.
And one of the things, what you say, that's, whenever I'm the speaker or I have to talk about Texas independence, I tell them, because a lot of people don't want to be involved in, well, why do you do politics, or I don't want to be in government or whatever. And it's like, I didn't choose politics. It chose me. Nobody chooses politics. You don't want to go do this stuff, but you need to understand that the laws and regulations that they come up with are running and ruining your life on a daily basis. People don't understand, like with all the federal laws and rules and regulations we have right now, you are committing a federal crime at some point in your day, and you don't even know it.
Every day. Yep.
Every day, all day, and you have no clue that you're doing that, and there's no way that any of us can know it. There's too many of them. We don't know, and it's just out of hand. But that's, I get frustrated when people or don't they want to see change, but they don't want to get involved. And I think that's one of the things that we really just want to stress is, like, guys, this is up to you. And think about it. And, when we go into rooms, it's typically people our age or older that are sitting in the room. Sometimes it's younger, not very often. But in the same respect, I constantly tell them a lot of this stuff happened on our watch. This is our responsibility to go fix, because what are we leaving our children and our grandchildren? A freaking mess. And, they don't deserve that. They didn't ask for that. But imagine the taxes and taxation and things that we live under right now. What is that going to look like in 20 years from now if it keeps going the way that it's going? They're going to be complete slaves. We almost are to the federal government. They're not going to have any money left.
Yeah, and it's a great point you bring up too. Whenever somebody from the administration, look, I appreciate what the president's done, with closing the border. He did a great job with that. If I was to give him a school grade, I'd give him an A- overall. I mean, there are some missteps. It happens. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
But I'm really getting tired of seeing somebody from the administration getting up to that podium and saying, "Hey, food prices are down, energy costs are down. This is down."
Where?
Yeah, exactly. Where?
Not in my house.
Is that one of those
I don't know
federal
about
things
your
where
house.
where it's down compared to where it would have been if they didn't do anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can make that argument too, that, it could be a lot worse, it could be a lot more money. So we got it under control at least. Yeah. Okay, fine. But
It's not the same as down.
exactly. It's still getting very hard. I went to HEB last weekend. I bought 7 items and I paid almost $80.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
for-
I went to HEB, I think Saturday morning or whatever, and I got out of there for about $80 too. I was like, oh wow, I didn't just spend $100 because usually it's $100 or more, and I don't have anything. Like you said, you bought 7 or 8 items. So I don't know where the food prices are down, but they're not down at my HEB. That's
This is
for
like
sure.
the spending reduction thing, where they talk about how, oh, well, we're saving money because we were going to spend this much and now we're only going to spend this much more. And it's like, well, you say you saved me billions of dollars, but it's still an increase. It's an increase in the taxes, an increase in the spending. And they do the same thing. So,
and an independent Texas would, how do I say it? An independent Texas would separate us from that monstrosity and not having to be so dependent on everything being set up at the federal level, and having that whole ridiculous system trickle down into the state itself and cause everybody's life miserable here. It would. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved with the TNM. I believe in limited government. I'm not an anarchist. I mean, I've been called since I've come out as a. It sounds terrible to say it like that, right? I've come out as a secessionist. Oh my God.
Oh, we know, we understand that word.
Yeah, I know. Like, you're a traitor. You're this. You're that. I mean, look. I don't want an intrusive government in my life. I don't want to pay all these taxes and see all the money that they're taking out of my paycheck and being sent into things that I would never contribute to.
right.
I would never want to be involved with.
Even
And
things I do want to be involved with, I don't want to make other people pay for that. Like if it's
Exactly.
something that I think is good, I'll give my money to it.
right, exactly. And honestly, I read a book not too long ago called Rethinking the American Union for the 21st Century. And after I bought the book, I went to go get another copy of it, and it's gone. Like you can't find it anywhere anymore. So I have one copy, and it's a great book. It's a series of essays, and it talks about the impossibility of running a country the size of this union from one central place, trying to cookie cutter policy. California is not Texas, obviously, thank God. Wyoming is not New York. You can't have that one cookie cutter policy that would to govern 300 million people or plus 300 plus. It's impossible. And the whole point of the book is that at some point this country is going to have to break up. And there's going to be and another dirty word we're going to use, confederacies of states coming together to do the things that they were originally meant to do, commerce and mutual protection, and that's it. There shouldn't every state would be the independent country that it is. That's what a state means. State equals
Nation
country.
state.
Right, exactly. And so this country that we have, this American Union that we have, is not one nation. When you say one nation, you're talking about no borders, no state identities, no state sovereignty. You're talking one centralized thing, and they slip it in all of these comments, all these commentaries, all these politicians. They slip it. The greatest nation on the earth. We're not a nation. We are a union of
I
states.
always say that they should have named it the States United instead of the United States, so that people would remember that your state is a nation state and it is a member of a union, but it's not one great big union, like exactly what you're saying. That's not how it was ever supposed to have worked.
Right. And that's why I call it the American Union, like the European Union. It's the American Union. As a matter of fact, if you look at some of the original founding documents, whenever they reference the United States, it's never capital U It's
Correct.
lowercase u, United States of America, United Countries of America. This thing has, and it's not a left and right
People have,
issue.
right, they have such
No.
a different perception of that because they think, oh, a state is like this political subdivision of a nation, and it's kind of like a county is to a state. They think the state is to what they deem as a nation, the country, the United States. And it's like, no. State was synonymous with nation at the time of the Constitution. It was a
Exactly.
capital S. So the United States, the colonies or whatever, seceded from the state of Great Britain. That's how it was written because that's
Right.
what that meant. And so, yeah, unfortunately, it's been downplayed.
It's
And
been
people don't-
co-opted, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the whole point of this book is talking about how the country will eventually break up into these smaller confederacies. Again, I know it's a dirty word. You're not supposed to use that word for anything, but it's a confederacy where you have these agreements. So Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, whatever, they might have a certain set of agreements, but they are independent states. There is no central government. There's no general government like our founders called it. Each state was on their own, but they only came together for trade and defense. That's it. And that's what I think.
I would argue you're not even going to need the confederacies. I mean, right now, there's lots of mutual defense agreements that are out there that any individual state could choose to sign on or not sign on to, as well as multilateral trade agreements that they could easily sign on to. And so, you pick and choose what makes sense for your state, whether or not maybe you want mutual defense with all this group of people, and maybe you want trades with these people. And so you don't even have to match. But I don't even think there's a need for these for the confederacies at all anymore, especially based on those two factors.
Right. Well, I'm only using the word because they use it in the book. So
Yes, yeah,
yeah. But I understand exactly what you're saying, and I agree with
they don't have
you.
to share government. They can have a mutual defense agreement and a trade agreement with somebody without sharing any other forms of government.
Exactly.
The European Union obviously started off as an economic union, and boy, did it degrade from that. I mean, some people knew that going in,
And quickly.
but it became far more than what the original intention was. Of like, we're just going to share some economic benefits together, and no, you ended up with a governance from Brussels. So
Unelected.
yes,
Unelected. And that's what, believe it or not, we have an elected government, a representative government, supposedly. But really, are they in charge of anything? I don't think so. The lobbies are pull the strings. The lobbies are actually running the country. The lobbies are the one telling your elected representative, no, you're going to vote this way, or we're not going to fund you for your campaign, your reelection bid. We're not going to do that. And they bow to it, and they kowtow to it, and they suck it all up. And you're just nobody, because you're not. What your $20 contribution to my campaign is nothing compared to the $20 million I just got from XYZ company.
right.
And that all has to change. And you bring the government.
lobbies. You can have a few people that stand up against that. The lobbyists don't need all of them; they just need a majority.
Yeah. Exactly. And and that's the whole point of separating from that federal beast. You bring everything closer to home. Those representatives are here. They're accessible to you, and and they'll be more concerned about meeting their obligations to the constituency. You're not going to get that with the federal system anymore. And listen, Texas can stand by itself. Texas doesn't need anybody else. Texas, and the points that I usually make when I talk about this is, look, first of all, we're not part of the national grid. All right, we have our own power supply. We have our own power grid. We don't have to be connected to anybody else. Texas leaves the union right now. It's automatically becomes the 8th largest economy in the world.
Maybe 7th. Yep.
Yeah, I mean it changes from time to time.
It changes.
Exactly.
But-
Top economy.
And it depends on who's doing the study.
Right. Yeah. But still, the point of it is, it's one of the top world's economies.
Yes,
Steady growing,
absolutely.
because I saw 10 years ago where I made a statement about that. We were 12th at the time, so we're already up to 8th. I mean, it's
Well, the new study shows in 2032 we should move to number 5 position.
wow. Yeah. Certainly it's not enough economy.
And plus, we have
Our economy's fine.
we have the infrastructure to do it. We have our new stock exchange.
Yep.
Right. You have Governor Abbott has been going around making the world tours. I know it's mostly symbolic at this point, but laying groundwork for future agreements.
But it's
Unless
interesting that he's
somebody
doing
else
that,
has
isn't
done
it?
It is.
We're the only state with foreign trade offices, directly. Like we have one in Mexico City and now one in
Mhm.
Hang on, I'm gonna get this wrong. Taiwan, Thailand, one of those two.
One of the T's.
Thailand, I think. Yeah.
One of the T lands.
Yeah. So
You know-
I mean, we're the only state that actually has foreign offices, and so that's we've advanced on every front, like you said.
We do, and we're number one in oil and gas. Hello, we're number one in beef and cattle. We have more deep water ports than anyone else. We're number one in power and solar. I mean, we have it all. We already are a country.
Number one.
We just got to
exporter.
separate.
We export more than number 2 and number 3 combined, which is New York and California.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. No, I don't know why anybody doubts that we can stand on our own, or, well, Mexico will invade. How much are they got to borrow from us in order to do that?
and look, look, even when the time comes and Texas does separate, it would be in the best interest of the rest of the American Union to be supportive of an independent
Absolutely.
Texas, because Mexico might invade. You know,
They're going to need something that Texas has. I can guarantee you.
oh, I'm
Well,
sure.
we have a lot of good trading partners. It'll be difficult for people to accept at first, but I think it's something that will come out stronger. And I mean, we hear concerns about that sort of thing all the time. Talk about inefficiency, like at government, we replicate. There's 440 federal departments and agencies. I think they have trouble counting themselves. But Texas replicates nearly every department and function of the federal government in some way, and so that means you're paying for government twice right now.
Right.
Not only do we overpay between 103 to 160 billion dollars, which I know compared to the feds that sounds like a small amount of money, but in the Texas budget that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
But we also use that money to pay for redundant departments, so there's even more savings that are potentially on the table when we don't have to pay for all that. So.
Yeah, just think of how much Texas can do with that money that they funnel off to the federal system. It could be very, very easily used here, and infrastructure here could be greatly improved.
And left in the pockets of Texans. The main
I
thing.
was going to say the
You get
quality
more money out of
quality
it.
of life for
The
every
quality of
Texan
life would
would
definitely.
be improved.
Absolutely.
There's more positives than negatives for Texas independence. And I believe in it. Like I said at the start of our segment here, that, I hope it happens in my lifetime. I want it to happen in my lifetime. I would love to be a part of it that way. But if it's not meant to happen in my lifetime, well, I'm going to do everything I can to help it along the way. This way it does happen at some point. And so that's why I get involved, and that's why I want to be more involved with the organization. That's why I try to talk about the TNM as much as I can on the course of the show. And it's really important. It's really important. And Texas, is not alone in this either. Texas is not the only state that has an independence movement within it. I mean, New Hampshire, I think, has the oldest one. I think Vermont has one.
Vermont has the oldest, then New Hampshire, I believe, is what it is. California's making moves right now too. Y'all should keep your eyes on California.
Well, that's good. That's
Different
good.
system than us, but they're making some moves right now. Hawaii has one. Now we have a Flexit in Florida, and Louisiana
about that
has
the other
one. Oklahoma has one. I mean, there are multiple states. At one time, there were 32 active. I don't know what the real count is anymore. That was a few years ago, but
Last
it's
I
a
heard,
global
it was
trend.
25.
Like you say, it's not something. It's foreign to us, or when I say us, I'm speaking us as in the nation of the United States, but because I think that we are so closed off to some of the things that happen across the globe. But this is a global trend. People want self-determination. They want independence. They don't want to live under somebody's constant rule where, you constantly feel like a slave.
You have no say in it.
Yeah, you have no say. And this is going on for years and years, hundreds of years. Look at Scotland. So for people to think that we couldn't do it in Texas, when could you tell a Texan they couldn't do something and they do it? I mean, we do have that spirit about us, whether we like it or not. I quite like it, but
another good example that's playing out right now is Alberta up in Canada.
Yes, Alberta.
Alberta, if you don't know anything about them, they're basically like Canadian Texans, you know. I mean,
Yes.
Yes.
and sorry if I insulted by calling them Canadian these days, but you know, I mean, it's an oil and gas driven economy. It's cowboys. It's that rugged individualism. You know, there's so many parallels between our cultures, between Texans and Albertans, but they're seeing the same thing. Like, you know, just blanked on the name of the Canadian capital, but you know, they're finding the same things with their federal government, where it's taking lots of money from them. It's not giving a lot back to them. It's very disaligned with their values. They're concerned with a lot of this globalist agendas that's being forced on them. You know, and they're really finding that, hey, we're not a match. Like the policies that you think you want are not the policies that we want here. And so I think they're getting really close to having a referendum. They've got a petition that they can circulate there to force that on the ballot. They haven't launched it yet, last I checked, but they're getting pretty close, and that's really going to push this issue. And, you know, what didn't hurt, honestly, was the joke about Canada becoming the 51st state. A lot of people think whatever you want about that. I consider it a joke, but, you know, an interesting joke. But for Alberta, you know, it really got a lot of conversation going of like, hey, what if people did want to do something different? What if they did want to change the relationship with their government? And so, you know, I hope that they choose independence. I won't tell them what to do, but if I were an Albertan, I'd be voting for independence, obviously. And if they do, I think it's going to create a tremendous example that a lot of other people go, oh, wait, this is possible. This is something that you can do. Countries can leave, you know, I mean, the Brexit's been the most recent, like, well-known example, and a lot of people have a hard time of putting Great Britain in context as a state of the European Union. While I see the parallels perfectly. If you watch the Brexit movie, they lay it all out and you go like, yeah, Brussels is DC, you know?
Yep.
But a lot of people still have trouble wrapping their head around that. But if you see something like Alberta leave Canada, then I think it'll be an even closer parallel for people to understand. And they'll go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe we should determine whether my state should leave. So.
And where is the TNM on getting this referendum through?
All right. So what it takes is a bill passed through the legislature. It is a simple majority in both chambers, and then the governor has to not veto it. But that's what it takes. And so we've had the bill filed twice in 2021 and 2023, and we did not have it filed this last time, but we got to make sure that we have, 76 in the House and a majority in the Senate in order to get this through. And so that's a major step. We've been making steady progress and growing towards it. And so having 10 representatives that are in office that have signed the pledge, saying that they would support, they didn't say necessarily they would vote in favor of Texas. We're not asking them how they vote at the polls. We're asking them, do they support Texans having a vote on this? And they've made it very clear that they would support that, as well as upholding the results of that vote. We've had over 190 different total candidates sign the pledge, which is wonderful. And a lot of those are office holders. So the current Commissioner of Agriculture for us is a Texas First Pledge signer. Lots of people in local government, whether Justice of the Peace or some county commissioners or even holding party positions. So we've got a lot, but that's growing, and that's really the best tool that we have to measure what we need. We're not going to need 76 pledge signers in the House in order to know we've got a majority of support, but as we get closer to 30 to 40 of those, then you'll know that we probably have the votes that we need. So, all
right. Well, for Texans, or as Daniel likes to use, Texians. I like that, actually. I do. I like Texians. For Texans listening right now, and that want to get involved but don't know where to start, what's the one thing that you would tell them to do today?
Well, if you haven't gone to our website at tnm.me yet and pledged your support, that's a good place to go. There's a lot of resources on there that will get, if you're unsure about some of these aspects of Texas. I mean, hopefully we covered a good job of it tonight, but if you got some questions still, we got tons of Q&A on there. So, if you're going like, what happens to my Social Security? Believe it or not, that's the most common question. That answer is there.
Yeah.
So go find that. But if you're already sold and you want to get involved, and let's say you're already maybe a supporter of ours, you signed up for the email list, the next thing we need you to do is volunteer. And like right now, I think the most important thing is get involved in one of these campaigns for the primary. If you don't, you can say you don't have a representative that you need. Let's say you've got a representative that they're just the farthest thing from it and they got no challenger, right? And so you're going like, well, how do I help? Well, guess what? A, you can help another representative if you're looking at the House. B, you've got statewide candidates like Don Huffines and for comptroller, or James Matlock for help you, was railroad commissioner. Daphne?
Railroad commissioner.
Yeah, and so we've got some statewide candidates that you can help with. But I highly encourage, if you've got another representative near you, to go work in those. The legislature, every position's important, but the legislature is kind of our primary focus right now. So.
All right. And I just want to remind folks, too, that if you go to my website, joerooz.com/TNM, I have a whole page set up there. It's been there since we started the website. All the QR codes up there so you can register your support, you can donate, you can become a member. All of that is up on my website, plus links to the TNM website. So you should go over there and check it out. If you don't want to go through my site, you can go to tnm.me. It's right there up on the screen, and get more information about this. This is a very important conversation that needs to be had, not just for Texas, but every state in the union should have some type of a conversation about this to evaluate our relationship with the existing government. Our founding documents state it clearly that it is our rights as citizens in this country to alter or abolish the government once it becomes out of control, tyrannical. I know I'm paraphrasing it, of course, but
okay.
But it's within our rights to do that. It's our
Article
obligation.
1, Section 1, Section
That's
2 of the Texas Constitution is where we get that right. And
That's
that's
right.
exactly what it does say.
And it's also the federal Constitution. It's
Yes.
our obligation, I would say, not even just a right. It's an obligation for us to be the watchdogs for our government and alter it and change it, abolish it, is what the Constitution says. So don't crucify me for using the word. But it's our obligation to do that. We have to be the watchdogs of our government. Otherwise, what you're seeing developing here in these states united is only going to get worse. It's going to get more oppressive. It's going to get more restrictive, and to the point where especially if they bring about this central bank digital currency they want to do, right? Look at this conversation right here, right now would get us debanked. These things are very real. They're not conspiracy theories. They're conspiracy facts. These things are in the works. It's coming. And the only way you're going to preserve that is by getting involved in movements like the TNM, whether it's in Texas or it's in your own state, wherever you're listening or watching. You need to get involved in these things, because sooner or later, you're going to need it. Sooner or later, it's going to become a necessity, and you're not going to have the structure in place to do it. So get involved now. It's extremely important. We laugh, we joke about a lot of stuff, but I can't tell you enough how important this is. Get in touch with your state. Get in touch with a movement in your state. Start a movement in your state. And that's what you got to do. And that's my 2 cents on the closing matter. All right. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you guys want to talk about?
We don't have time for that.
No.
Well, Joe, we can stay here for about 4 or 5 hours talking about this.
Hey, listen,
but
you know what? I have no problem tonight. No, because my dog is growling at the door here. He's hungry, but we can definitely schedule it again. Get on, and we could just pick a day that there's no other guests. This way, we can have the full length of time. We can even go longer. So,
yeah, because we have lots of things to talk about. We don't ever run out of things to talk about.
I have no problem with that.
It's a deep subject, and there's so many moving parts to this right now. But as Nate was saying earlier, I think just for the closing thing is, check out the website. Check out. We will be posting the next events or the next workshops that Nate and I will be at. We don't have all the information for that yet, but we are in the process of that and should have it very quickly. It's posted on the TNM website under the events. And please come out and see us. Please come get some civic training. Please come learn how your Texas government works. Let us explain it to you. Ask us a barrage of questions, because I'm sure that we can answer between he and I. We can answer the questions. We've done this long enough. But get involved. That's just the key thing. If you can't shake your fist at the TV or read the newspaper and just get upset. You have to get involved. It takes people willing to finally go, I've had enough. What can I do? Because it's the smallest things. And that's one of the things about what we want people to understand on that volunteering for campaigns and stuff. A lot of that stuff you can do from your couch. It doesn't mean you got to show up at an office somewhere or go block walking every day or anything like that. There's multiple things that we will teach you how you can be effective in people's campaign. And the fact of the matter is you could work on 2 or 3 different campaigns doing maybe one specific thing. Maybe you have special skills, or maybe you have resources that you can donate to campaigns, and you would be surprised. But we take you through all that. We make you do a skills assessment test and teach you about resources and how to use those. And, if we're going to ask these people to run for office so that they can represent us, and we feel like that would be somebody that would be a true representative for us, then it's up to us to help them get into office. And they really need it. It's short on funding. They're always short on funding. We know that for a fact. But most of the time, they're short on volunteers too. And it takes multiple voices to amplify their message and get their message out. And so that's really what we want to do, because that is the way that we get to that Texas House and get that changed. There's no other way to do it. So that would be our last call, is just come see us. Come see me and Nate on the road, wherever we end up in Texas. And hopefully we can teach you something.
Outstanding. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. Don't forget, folks, head over to tnm.me, or you can go to my website, joerooz.com/TNM. You can get all this information and sign up. Get involved. Do something.
Yes.
Don't just sit on your hands. All right. This is your state. This is your home. This is your country. Do something about it.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. This was great. And let's get together again very soon, and we'll do a full, I don't care. We can do a marathon if you want. All right.
All right. Thanks for having us on, Joe. We appreciate it.
Betcha. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a great night.
You too.
All right. So, folks, Daphne Armour, Nate Smith of the Texas Nationalist Movement. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was really informative. I appreciated them taking the time out to do that tonight. I know they are incredibly busy. They have a ton of things going on that they have to work on. And for them to do this for us tonight was great. So I appreciate that. All right, folks. Let's see. Let's wrap this thing up. I'm looking at my feed. Looks horrible right now. I look like a blob. Signal degradation. Wonderful. All right. Well, let's see. Folks, don't forget, head over to the website, joerooz.com. Sign up for our programming announcement email list. All right. It's free. It doesn't cost you nothing. And you also get to you get information on the upcoming shows, guests, and all that stuff. Sign up for it. All right. Like I said, free, don't cost you nothing. We're not going to sell, share, give out your information to anybody. It all stays locked and secured. And we're not going to sell you stuff either. We're not going to send you a bunch of stuff you're not interested in. All we're going to send you is information about upcoming shows. All right. So sign up for it. It's on the website. As soon as you get to the homepage, a little pop-up is going to come there. Just fill it out. Sign up for it. And we look forward to catching up with you there. Also, if you want to find us on our socials, we're on Twix, Truth Social, Minds, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Getter, you name it. We're on it. Find us. Pretty much all variations of @JoeRooz. All right. Shout outs to our producing team, executive producer Wayne Rankin, Rosanna Rankin, Carolina Jimenez, Marissa Lee, and the inestimable anonymous Angela. Thank you so much, guys, for all your contributions to the show. Thank you for donating your time, your talent, your treasure. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Now, if you want to help us out, you can do that very simply by going to the website, clicking the support button, and you can do a one-time donation in any amount. You can do a recurring donation in any amount. Or if you want to sign up as a producer, you can get the associate producer for $17.76 a month. A producer is $18.36 a month. Executive producer is $25 a month or more. All of you guys get the same shout out on every show. You get included in all show notes, any emails, and anything that we send out. And as the executive producers of the show, you get to come onto the show with us and have a conversation. Get involved in the actual production of the show. All right. Now, you could also, if you want to help us out with cryptos, you can do that too. Ethereum, Tether, Bitcoin, Texacoin, all of that stuff is on our support page, all our wallet information. So you can check it all out once you get over there. Also, just to remind you that we do have a GoFundMe set up for this escrow shortage that I'm coming up with. So if you're able and have the means to do it, if you'd like to make a contribution to it, please send it on over. We really appreciate that. Just scan the QR code that's up there on your screen. And I think the link is on the website. If not, I'll double check. All right. Also want to say thank you to the folks that are watching us tonight on Rumble. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch tonight. Thank you for the folks on YouTube and Twitch and X and Facebook and all those places that are watching. Thank you so much for that. Also to the folks that are listening live on the modern podcast apps. Thank you for tuning into that. And don't forget, the show will be available to you to download on the audio platforms immediately after the show. And same thing with the video. We'll get it all set up for you as soon as the show comes to the end. All right. If you want to check out some of the modern podcast apps that I talk about all the time, just head over to modernpodcastapps.com or podcastindex.org and try out some of these new modern podcast apps. They are fantastic. You're going to love them. All right. I think I've spoken enough. Charlie is barking at the door here. He wants to eat. So with that said, folks, thank you again so much for being with us tonight. Check out the website, joerooz.com. Thank you to our guests for being here tonight. Great show tonight. Really appreciate it. Folks, listen, let's make Texas independent again. Go podcasting, keep a steady stride, and keep talking. God bless you and good night.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails.